In celebration of World Animal Day, CGTN presents Sanjiangyuan, Meet My Homies. UNDP rep in China, B. Trinkman, teams up with CGTN's Tian on a journey to China's Sanjiangyuan National Park, the source of 3 mighty rivers, to get up close and personal with the locals and the native wildlife they're guarding. See the family ties between humans and their wards to mark World Animal Day.
From Beijing to Qinghai, from the lower plains to the huge Qinghai-Xizang Plateau. After months of preparations, consultations with local experts, and orientations with travel companions, I finally arrived at the Three River Source National Park. After almost 8 to 9 hours drive, we are arriving at the very gate of the Three River Source National Park. This is where it is. Particularly, we are going to visit the Yellow River source, and this is the gate. I knew the trip was not going to be an easy one, but I remained extremely curious and determined to find out how Sanjiangyuan National Park works. Why? Because it's the largest protected natural park in China. It is part of the country's ambitious plan to create an immense network of parks by the year 2030 to protect the country's diverse natural landscapes and its iconic and, in some cases, endangered species. Vast rugged nature, endangered species, local people's livelihood, government, NGOs, local communities, and individuals, how all these fell into the right places and formed an ecosystem that works. The local rangers I met along the way gave me some great answers. Bai Ma oversees 1,300 rangers in the upper reaches of the Yangtze River. He and his peers embrace everything this place offers. They are here to patrol, monitor, and protect the ecosystem against the backdrop of expansive plateaus and snowy mountains. It's the wonders of nature that he and his family have been enthralled by throughout the generations. And there was even once a magical encounter with snow leopards. I always want to see this photo you took.
That
day, I went up to the mountain around 9 a.m. It took me 4 hours. It's over 5,300 meters. I saw 7 snow leopards at that time, but 6 of them had already run away. One of them was preparing to attack us. It was very fierce. I suddenly encountered it after crossing the mountain. It was probably about 10 meters away. Its gaze was clearly intent on attacking us. We stopped and didn't move. After we stayed still, it watched us for a while. Then it slowly withdrew. I felt relieved inside. Then we continued walking upwards.
When you are so scared, you can still take a photo. Wow, that's amazing.
Inside the Jaeger Conservation Station of Qinghai Administration under the Management Committee of Yangtze River Source Region, there are currently about 300 to 400 snow leopards. There is a special conservation team for snow leopards. They use infrared cameras each time on a mission and telescopes during the day, all monitored by them to gather data. These are the figures we currently have. Every time I see them, my state of mind is completely different. I feel especially at ease inside. Seeing them safe makes every aspect of the people's lives more beautiful.
Did you tell your family members that you saw the snow leopards?
As I told them, they were especially happy. My father is now quite old at 84, and my mother is 70. Currently, they haven't seen a snow leopard up close. They had seen them before, but never from such a close distance. When they saw the photo that day, they were very happy. From childhood, my parents said we must first protect animals and plants and take good care of our own grasslands, so that our future path will be smooth and will be comfortable and healthy. I personally feel it's an honor.
In Sanjiangyuan, or the source of the three rivers, the snow leopard is hailed as the king of the snow mountains, while the wild wolf is known as the overlord of the wilderness. And the local rangers are not scared of them, but cherish every moment they can dance with the wolf. Such as Haihua, who I met in the upper reaches of the Yellow River.
好帅呀！现在有多少只狼？你为什么喜欢狼？
Caihua is not much of a talker, but he eagerly introduced me to a group of his fellow rangers. Each of them has unique skills, tracking and safeguarding a variety of wildlife across the vast plateau. In our chats, I realized that Ren Qing was indeed the soul of the group. Following them, I broadened my horizons, meeting new friends in their natural habitat, including herds of wild donkey happily running back and forth greet us. Though the rangers were shy, they were warm and welcoming, introducing their life and work to me and a group of visitors together visiting the Three River Source National Park.
给我介绍一下你们的工作。
他们在这个平常的巡护这块当中，对这个野生动物的这一块，
In their regular patrols regarding wild animals, for instance, if they find any injured ones, they provide immediate aid and then report to the management committee of the Yellow River Source region under the Three River Source National Park Administration in our county, sending these wild animals there for timely rescue. Also, after the animals are protected, they monitor for any illegal activities, and another aspect of their work is grassland monitoring, checking if there are any changes, such as the appearance of previously unseen species. When new species emerge, they go there to take photos and collect information. They drive where vehicles can't go, ride motorcycles where cars can't reach, and ride horses where motorcycles can't go. Their patrolling involves quite a range of activities. Right now, it's the peak of the flood season, so they sometimes check if the lake water levels have risen, or if flash floods have occurred in some areas, and monitor for soil erosion or mudslides. They monitor all these aspects. Another task is, when the snow gets thick in winter, they spread some dry green fodder, scattering it on the snow so that wild animals can have grass to eat.
You might also have noticed, among the ranger team are several skilled and strong women rangers. I call them Highland Gao sunflowers. So this is a women's roundtable. Girls support girls. Sai Ji is one of the leading women among the groups of herdsmen turned who is monitoring right now the prairie. So Sai Ji has her own stories to tell us. 你一般出去巡逻的时候和男性巡逻员一起吗？
跟男性
一起哦，好棒！那个男性巡护员觉得你棒不棒？
真的很棒，
很棒。那我们一起给你点赞。The weather on the plateau changed rapidly. We went to visit Ranger Rosai's home before heavy rains. His entire family came out to greet us. 好，哎呀，你家好漂亮啊！你家好漂亮。
炒面、酥油糌粑。
Wow, wonderful. 你们爸爸巡护员哈？
对。
哦，知道爸爸巡护都在做什么工作吗？
去周围看环境，然后有垃圾的话就会捡起来。
爸爸的工作你觉得怎么样？棒不棒？以他为骄傲吗？
挺骄傲的吧？
挺骄傲的。为啥呢？
因为他保护环境，
保护家园。
爸爸出去巡护的时候，妈妈就在家，全权负责啊。
对。客人来的时候给他们倒茶呀。弄糌粑之类的，然后走了之后洗碗扫地，有时候妈妈累了，我们会给她做饭之类的。喜欢吃粉条。
你家除了做巡护，还做其他工作吗？
其实你跟我领导我们，他日头装就这么也没有自己。
那你巡护员一个月能挣多少钱？1800。1800块钱啊，一个月。
我妈妈是要捡这周围的垃圾，一个月1800。
1800，那2个人够了啊。But Rome was not built in one day. Sun Lijian could better explain how things have been working and why they have worked better than expected.
第一个我应该讲，它叫体制之变。
First, there's an integration of the management. Before the establishment of the national park, the responsibility for managing the local environment was scattered around various bureaus of local government, including those in charge of water management, ecology, natural resources, pastures, and grassland, which led to confusion and low efficiency. Now the area is under the direct management of the national park with an integrated system and better efficiency. It has also set a model of management for other national parks in China. Additionally, the national park system has brought benefits to the locals. Now, there are 17,211 households living in the national park. The park provided a job of rangers or eco-protectors for each family, which largely increased the income of the local herdsmen. From 2018 to now, the national park has paid 2.4 billion yuan for these jobs.
There
are so many people around the world. They're so much looking forward to coming to Sanjiangyuan. And they really want to know how China is working on its national park, how China is doing its green transformation. So what would you say to them?
我们也在不停在努力。你看。We've
been trying to boost international cooperation. We have had exchanges with national parks such as Yellowstone in the US and Banff in Canada. We've also been to famous national parks in Russia, Italy, and some African countries. They also come to see Sanjiangyuan. We have learned a lot from each other. I remember Jonathan Jarvis, the former director of the U.S. National Park Service, led a group of famous ecologists around the world and visited Sanjiangyuan. In his report, he said the Yellowstone National Park is just a pretty name card, but your national park has its own culture. A national park with culture is how national parks should look like in the future. Your national park is the greatest one in the world.
The national park plan that Sun explained began in the year 2015 with 10 different pilot parks. These are set to cover 2.3% of China's land areas. Combining earlier reserves, to create larger protected habitats for the country's most at-risk creatures. Sanjiangyuan National Park is the largest among them. From day one, the local community has been the key to its success. They are also the beneficiaries of its success. So beautiful, isn't it? Just like the movie, The Sound of Music. Look at that. This is the courtyard of a local herdsman's family deep in the mountains. Sitting in their living room looking at the unforgettable, breathtaking sceneries right outside its windows, having a taste of local delicacies made by hand, it was just really wonderful. So this is what they prepare for one day ahead, the yogurt, homemade. Look at that. 多棒！扎西的嘞，你们的房子好美，用了多长时间把它装扮成这么美的？
The house was built 2 years ago and it has been renovated over the last year. And I really hope that you can give me some advice about the decoration and then we can improve it.
我觉得你做的太好了，我过些天再到你这儿来玩，我要住在你们家。今年怎么样？今年那个来旅游来玩的人多不多？
There's not a lot of tourists here this year, and your group is the first wave, just after the logging season, and we've been in the pasture.
不是旅游旺季的时候，你忙活啥？
I always patrol around the mountain or clean the house. Usually I set out on a patrol at 6 a.m., and my wife gets up at 5 a.m. and cooks me breakfast. My partners and I patrol in groups of 4 or 5, and sometimes go a little farther. And it takes us about 6 hours, and sometimes much shorter, about 2 hours.
生态示范户每个月能有多少收入啊 ？Is it family secret？ 是不是家里的秘密？
It depends on the number of tourists. During the peak tourist season, we can earn about 10,000 yuan per month.
The Sanjiangyuan National Park is a land of treasure where tradition is well preserved, and we also face challenges including the lack of power and weak phone signals.
The tranquil, beautiful life in the courtyard was unforgettable both to me and to my travel companion, Beate Trankman, the UNDP resident representative for China. The UN agency she works for has been teaming up with the Chinese partners to make things happen. This is the real essence of your project. Try to bring the balance between human and nature.
Exactly. And trying to find ways that you can actually, so we're working with government to support China's national protected area system and networks, right? So when you talk about things like this, you work across all levels, right? You need to work with government and on legislation and on institutional capacities, right? So that institutions know how to plan, how to ensure that the funding is there for protection. But you also need to work at the micro level with people and communities, and training herders, for example, and local communities, like we saw, to become monitors of the wildlife and guardians of nature, and combine that with livelihood activities. So this is indeed what this is about, and I think we're seeing good progress.
When you were sitting here with the rangers on the grassland, talking to them about their trainings, about their daily routine, what went through your mind?
No, it's very interesting to see how they interact, right? Because they're very shy, right? So you have these strong men, right, who go out on their horses, on their motorbikes to face the wolves. When you talk to them, they're very, soft soft-spoken and they're very modest about it, but they're so committed. And it's, I think that combination that is really, really touching. But it's also great to see them thriving, right? Because they were telling us how the project actually supports the family income, right? And how they can then sort of send this one family that we were with again in the Yellow River, how they can send their daughters to school. So I think it's very rewarding to hear this, because at the end of the day, development, right, has to be about people, right? It's people who, as I said, protect the nature and who will be the guardians, but you also have to make sure that people benefit. And I think that came out quite clearly from the conversations we had.
How, when looking from outside, is China's national park system working differently, similarly with others?
Well, I think the national park, the main difference is that it just provides a higher protection status. Right? That is the highest level of protection status. It's a level higher than protected areas. And what all of these do together is to make sure that China also moves towards that critical global biodiversity target that came out from the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, the new framework. So what all of this does is for China to meet this target of 30 by 30, which means protecting 30% of land and water by 2030. That's a target that was negotiated as part of the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework, the new framework that was issued under China's presidency. And China is moving fast. China already has 18% of its land and water masses under protection status, and it's adding. So it's all these pieces coming together. And the national parks are encouraging, because these national parks, they look at critically important, globally critically important biodiversity. So that's why they lifted the protection status, and it sends a signal, and it sends a good signal that China is committed and willing to walk the talk. And China, again, I think has a very important role to play here. Because it has good examples to show. Its poverty reduction story, eradicating extreme rural poverty in 2020, but also the eco-civilization story. And the massive efforts China is making, both on protecting biodiversity and nature, but also engineering the green transformation. China is a leader in the green energy transformation. It holds 30% of installed capacity. And Qinghai is actually a very good example how this is moving.
But no matter how wonderful things have turned out so far, there's still a long way to go. As progress has been made, new challenges also arise. With a shared home, there are inevitable encounters between humans and wildlife, and also smart adaptations from some animals. Conflicts between humans and wildlife are no stranger to people living in the high plateau. The late Chinese movie maker Pema Chodron turned the reality into a big screen story.
哪个学不前天晚上条件我都要讲你们，要是们就个全年都这样大的这样，那就我跟人家谈在一起了，我现在准备对面上路那么去不行啊。
With the help of environmental protection organizations, solutions to Sanjiangyuan's trouble are often integrated and technology-driven. I'm on my way to see the volunteers. They are living here in the local community to help with the locals to deal with the challenges, but at the same time share with them the best experiences and best practices. Hello. 你好，你好。Hello. 你好，你好。Jasdele. 带我看看。
调研当地的牧民对这些肇事物种他们的态度。
We investigated local herders' attitudes towards these troublesome species. It can be seen on this chart that herders generally like snow leopards and leopards more. Wolves and brown bears are not so popular since they tend to eat cattle, causing economic losses. We tried some protective measures, including infrared cameras for early warning, and used AI to identify the brown bears. Then we will inform the herdsmen not to come back, or find a way to drive it out.
To find out the effectiveness of these methods, I talked to Qiuzhou Mao, a university student whose home is often visited by bears. 我听说有时候这地儿不是很安全，因为有保护的动物之后，它们也会在人出没的地方出没，是吧？
对，我们这个地方
Yes, brown bears appear more frequently in our area. Snow leopards and leopards, they do not attack areas where humans live. They usually stay in high places. And when it comes to brown bears, they often come to the place where we live and steal our food. They sort of understand it in a human way.
I mean, on the one hand, you need to protect the wild species, but at the same time, prepare family members and livestock. How are you guys doing it?
If animals harm some of our livestock, we think it is natural. After all, it's all part of a biological chain, so I don't think it matters. It is such a chain, so we will not disturb it, and it will not disturb us. To stop the bears from entering our house, my dad installed power grid around the house. The device will not harm the bear's life. It will frighten them so that they will not come next time.
After traveling for a week non-stop, altogether a few thousand kilometers up and down the Qinghai-Xizang Plateau, all of us realized, with our own eyes, the making of real good things. In this harsh, gorgeous place, humans and nature, all lives are respected. And I wonder if that can best sum up the ultimate story of Sanjiangyuan.